So if your logic falls after the third question, I just know it's not true. And if it's not true, it's either a problem or you're being conservative. Because one of the knocks, there's many knocks, one of the knocks on what I do is that we are lazy. And so what you want to do is you want to
Mm,
convince, you want to sell us, right? You want us to go along with whatever the trend is going to be. And ultimately you want to underpromise and overdeliver. You want to tell us that you're going to do 5 cents and do seven. And oh my God, those 2 cents, it's going to take your stock so much higher because how could you possibly do 2 more cents? It's amazing. Anyway, rinse and repeat. So I would like to figure out, are you really going to do 7 cents? Right. So if you're telling me a story that is, okay, we can take it for granted, or we can ask another question. Tariffs, since I brought it up before, we know based on the classroom that if a company has higher costs, they're going to pass them on. Great. So costs are going to go higher for every consumer. Okay, but we also know that consumers are pushing back on in general pricing because they don't think they need to pay that much, and so promotions are coming down. Wait, how do we make those two things work? And so it's just taking that step back and saying, okay, there are certain products that companies will certainly be able to pass along costs for because they're
hmm.
already charging full price.
Right.
But if you didn't want to pay full price for that pair of denim yesterday, as soon as the tariff comes, when it's raised another 30, but like, I'm sorry, I don't think you're getting that price simply because. And so that's the question where I'll push back and ask. And ultimately, where I'll probably get to is either the conversation will stop because we weren't prepped or they weren't prepped to have that question asked, or we'll realize that, okay, what you're really going to do is absorb the margin. You're going to try and share it, but feel the pressure yourself, or you're going to figure out a way to cut corners, right? And so that's where the really interesting conversations happen. And so what I really try to do is I try to not buy into, again, try and leave my own anecdotal baggage at the door. I have plenty of it, but basically to say, does this logic hold? And does it work with the numbers? But I really believe that if everyone knew the incremental sweater that was going to force you, that if you sold that one extra sweater, it was going to force you to mark everything down before it 25%, who would sell that sweater? No one would sell that sweater if they realized that everything before it, because you can't price on the marginal unit. You don't get to say, no, the 112th sweater will be 75%, but everything else 100. You're going to lose it all. And if
Right.
you knew exactly which pair of shoes that was or exactly what sweater, I don't think most people would sell it, but we don't have that. That's not a real, that's an imaginary view. But I think that most people, once they go too far, then instead of rather not juicing, but instead they just feel like they need to hit expectations and they need to constantly grow. That's where we get to these scenarios where these brands just get too large, but they're just not healthy. One of the things I love doing, because I'm a weirdo, but one of the things I love doing is charting large brands against their margin rates. And so basically just
Hmm.
finding what are my really big businesses that just don't make a lot of money? Because those, if they want to change, are actually the easiest path up. I think Under Armour is going through. I alluded to Under Armour. I think they're
Hmm.
going through it right now. But if you have, we're talking about shirts and shoes here. We're not talking
Hmm.
about some huge capital intensive business, some big technology, some big, like you sell billions of dollars of stuff, you should make a lot of money on it. And if you're not,
Hmm.
sell less, charge more, you'll make more money. It's Econ 101.